Hello everyone. Alright, so the time is already 3 o'clock. I'm Dr. Zam. So today we are having the Wednesday webinar event, right? So every day we have a special event. So today is Wednesday. So we are having the Wednesday webinar event. Alright. So for this webinar, what I'm trying to do here is I'm trying to help students and parents to understand things better through using of technology, because with technology we can actually do many things. So one of the things that I really want to do is I want to share knowledge. I want to spread knowledge so that everybody can learn math and do really well for math, right? So Dr. Zam's math is actually a brain-based learning for mathematics, right? So let me just check, and just check that everything's fine before we start improper. Okay, so yep, okay, Facebook is working. How about YouTube? Let me just check. Okay, for those who are on Facebook, probably you can just comment, right? Let me just see who's there. Am I able to see who's there? Let me just check. Okay. Okay, thank you for being here. Okay, so as I was saying, the whole purpose is Dr. Zam's math. I want to make use of technology to make things easier for your kids, okay, for yourself, so that Singapore math is accessible to everybody, right? So the thing about Singapore math is it's actually very interesting. It's all about problem solving. All right, so let me just check. Let me just check the Facebook live. Okay, Facebook is there. So alright, it's fine. YouTube, okay, YouTube. Yeah, there are people who are watching. Okay, good. Okay, let me just check a little bit. Alright. Okay. Alright. Okay. So like I mentioned again, welcome to Dr. Zam's Math. Today is Wednesday webinar. Yesterday we had Tuesday Tried, right? So yesterday you all had the most difficult PSLE math problems up. So today I'm gonna do a webinar on percentage. What is webinar? Webinar basically, it's like some kind of class that you conduct online. It's a seminar. It's for me to disseminate information to you, right? Disseminate knowledge to you, so you can always refer to all this. In fact, if you go to drzam.com, you can find out even more. All right, so let's get started. All right. Okay, so like mentioned to you, today we're gonna do percentage. All right, so I hope all of you all can hear me. Okay, let me just try and make sure that everybody can hear me. All right, just give me a second. I just want to try on my Facebook and see whether everybody can hear me. Yep, looks good, right? It's the sound system's all fine. Okay. Let me just. Okay, good. Okay, so today we're going to cover the topic on percentage. So what I want to do is this. For your information, Singapore Math, its curriculum is spiral. Spiral in the sense that when your child comes into primary 1, your child will learn mathematics at that level, and then slowly your child will learn harder topics as your child go pass by year. So like for example, for this particular webinar, I'm going to be touching on primary and secondary math on the topic of percentage. So you can see that the topic percentage is actually found in primary school as well as in secondary school. So the topic on percentage begins when your child is in primary 5, right? But the foundation to understand percentage begins much earlier, right? Because later on you will find out that percentage has something to do with what your child learns, like for example related to whole numbers, related to fractions, and so on, right? So percentage is a upgrade of understanding of certain mathematical concepts. Okay, so for today I just want to let you all know that we're gonna talk about percentage, right? But before we talk about percentage, I was very curious, about percentage. I always wonder why, people always say, why do men invent algebra? It's not as if I'm gonna use algebra when I start working, right? So the same thing with percentage. You always wonder why somebody created percentage. What is percentage? Why do they have it? All right. So if you see, there is a photo, right? That is a photo of a man, right? This man is, if he's alive now, he's very old, right? But this is like about 500 years ago, 600 years ago, up to 800 years ago. So he's the first Roman emperor. So in ancient Rome, okay, he was a first Roman emperor. So in ancient Rome, actually what happened here is this guy, his name is Augustus, right? So Augustus did this. Augustus was the one who actually made his people, pay a tax of 1/100. Right? So basically he created this tax which is called Centissima Rerum Venilium. So basically it's a tax. He taxed his people on goods that are sold at an auction. Okay, at auction. So they call this the 1/100 tax. Meaning if let's say, you have 100 gold coins or silver coins, right? The government, or rather the Roman emperor, will take 1/100 coins. Right? So that is where the word cent, percentage, that's where the word percentage, the word cent comes from, because cent comes from the word 100. Right? Now, from the word percentage, right, in those days when they call the center, what happened here is they use a shorthand. A shorthand means like a short form, and then slowly what you have is a modern symbol which we all are very accustomed to, and that is this symbol of percentage, right? So it's called the percent symbol or the percentage symbol, right? Okay, now the other thing I wanted to do is to show you some of the materials or some of the things in your daily life that you're already used to. So let me just do one thing. Okay, alright. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to show on the video some example. Alright. Okay, now like for example this. Okay, so this is a brochure, right? So this is a brochure by Singtel, right? So it's stated on there 50% off movie combo pack now, right? 50% off. So if you get the movie combo pack, you will get 50% off. So it's a discount, right? That's where percentage come from. And then you have this, okay, somebody selling a vehicle, right? So for example, this lorry, okay, has a monthly installment, okay, so free 3-year servicing. All right, brand new Fuso installment from $580 per month. Okay, so you will find out how percentage is involved when you buy vehicles. Okay, now let me show you some other examples. Okay, like for example, this bank, okay, has this brochure, right? 16%, all right, for fixed deposits for 3 to 6 and 12-month fixed deposit. What is this, right? What is 16%? Okay, so basically the bank pays you for putting in money in their banks, right? 16%, the rate of 16%. But what 16%, right? So today we're gonna learn all this. All right, and then the other thing is, okay, I think this one, let me just check. Okay, so this is something that your parents, or rather you, will see. Okay, so it's a Singapore Power Services bill. All right, so it's a real bill, not my bill. Okay, let me just show you. Okay, so there's this very high tax called the water conservation tax, 30%, right? 30% of your usage. And then down here you have the goods and services tax, 7%. So you all know about GST, right? It's 7%. Water conservation tax is 30%. Okay. Okay, and then your parents, okay, would have to pay, or us for adults who are working, we will have to pay the personal income tax, right? So Singapore personal income tax. Okay, so if you look at it, okay, there's different percentages. Okay, the more pay you get, the more percentage you pay. So if you earn more than $320,000, you pay 20%. Okay, so you pay 20% if you are earning more than 320,000. So the more money you earn from Singapore's economy or from Singapore, you will pay more tax. And then if you earn less than 20,000, you don't have to pay any tax. Alright? But then if you earn anything above 20,000, the next 10,000 you'll be charged 2% rate. Okay? So these are some real examples of percentages being used. So today what I want to do here is I want to go through some of the very important concepts of percentages, right? So the last thing is I just want to show something. So this is actually this is actually a pie chart. Okay, this is actually a pie chart. So this pie chart actually breaks down the different topics that are tested in the PSLE math, right? So different topics, like for example, you have whole numbers, 9% of the exams. Examination question will be based on whole numbers, right? So normally normally you will see pie charts with percentages. Okay, so these are some real situations whereby people use percentages. So it all started from Augustus, right? So let's go back to our slide. So it all started from Augustus, right? Augustus, like I mentioned to you, is the Roman Empire, the Roman emperor in ancient Rome, right? He created this concept of 1/100. You know, during those days, they don't really have the decimal system. Like for example, they don't have cents, they don't have 100 cents, they don't have dollars. All they have were probably silver coins and gold coins, right? Silver coins and gold coins. So, for example, you know, if you buy something that is 100 silver coins or 100 gold coins, you have to pay 1 gold coin as tax to the Roman Empire or the Roman government, right? So that's how percentages are being used. Like in today's situation, we still use percentage. You know, like for example, today Singapore's government charges us 7% GST, and then just now you saw on the utility bill, right? It's 30% water conservation tax. So for every $100 you spend on water, $30 will be charged for conservation tax, right? To make sure we all save water. Alright, so percentages are very, very important. That is why this topic appears in primary school and also in secondary school. Alright, so now here's the thing. Tomorrow we have another event which is called Thursday Test Me. So what I want you all to do is to download the worksheet which has all the practice questions for today's webinar. Today's webinar, I just want to make sure you all understand the concepts. Alright, and probably we'll just do one problem sum. But what I want you all to do is to download the worksheet, okay, tomorrow at 1 p.m. Okay, because the event is at 3 p.m. So download the worksheet at 1 p.m. Try it out, print it out, try it out. Alright, if you don't have a printer, just look at the question on your mobile phone and write it down on a piece of paper. Okay, and then tomorrow I'll go through with you some of the questions based on the worksheet. So remember to download it at 1 p.m. But how do you download? Just go to www.drzam.com. You can sign up to Dr. Zam Math newsletter. Alright, you can just go to the website to find out more. You can go to the Facebook page, Dr. Zam's Math. You can go to the Instagram account, Twitter account, and the blog. Alright, that's where you can download the worksheet for tomorrow. Okay, then we will go through the questions tomorrow. Alright, now, what are the concepts and skills that are related to percentage, right? So for primary school, okay, let me just get my pen, right? This is my whiteboard. Okay, let me just get a pen. Okay. Okay, good. Now let's. Okay, so for primary, as I mentioned just now, okay, the first concept that you have to be able to do is to express a part of a whole, right? A part of a whole as a percentage, all right? So if I were to give you a part and I were to give you a whole, can you express it as a percentage? So it's quite related to fractions. Okay, then the next thing is, can you convert percentage into fraction, right? So this is the important concept that you have to take note of. Can you convert percentage into fraction? Okay, then we're going to take a look at how you convert a percentage into decimal, right? And then how do you do the reverse, fraction to percentage, and then the same for decimal to percentage. And then how do you find the percentage part of a whole, right? The percentage part of a whole. So let's say, for example, you say you want a 20% of something. What is 20% of something, right? Because that something is the whole. 20% of a whole, what is it? Can you measure it? Can you calculate the quantity? All right, then for primary, the other concept that you all need to know is also about discount, right? Discount, GST, annual interest. Annual interest here is interest that is given to you or you have to pay somebody on a yearly basis. All right, and then can you find the whole given the part? Okay, given a part and the percentage for that part. Can you find out the quantity of the whole, right? Okay, then the next thing is, which is very important and most of the time is being tested, is the percentage increase and decrease. Can you find the percentage increase and decrease? All right, and then of course, solving word problems involving percentage. So basically, these are all the concepts that you need to know by the time you sit for your PSLE, right? So these concepts are being taught to you in schools from primary 5 to primary 6, right? So make sure you know all this. So today we're going to go through these concepts, right, to make you understand. And then you can do the practice, download the worksheet tomorrow at 1 p.m. and then we'll go through some of the questions involving percentage. All right, now for secondary, you need to be able to express one quantity, all right, as a percentage of another. Okay, so to express one quantity as a percentage of another, like for example, you know, if I say you bought two kinds of fruits, okay, let's say you bought a bag of apples and a bag of oranges. The bag of apples is 800 grams. The bag of oranges is 900 grams, right? So what is the percentage of the oranges to the apples, for example? So this is how you express one quantity as a percentage of another. So we'll take a look at that. And then how do you compare two quantities by percentage? You know, let's say you have two certain quantities. Let's say let's say for your case, you were in school, in your own school, then you have a neighbor who is in another school. So your CA1, your test is over 50 marks, but your neighbor is over 100 marks, right? So let's say your neighbor scored 49 out of 100, but you didn't know that, right? So your neighbor will tell you, hey, I scored 49 out of 100. I scored 49 for my CA1. And then you said, hey, I scored 45. And then your neighbor tell you, hey, I score higher than you. I score 49. But when you compare these two quantities, when you use percentage, you will realize that actually you did better than your neighbor, because what you did was you scored 45 out of 50, right? But your neighbor scored 49 out of 100, right? So this is how we compare two quantities by percentage. We'll take a look at this. So just take note, these are secondary concepts. So for those who are in primary and you're watching this video, all right, you're watching this webinar, don't worry about these concepts in the secondary part, right? Okay, then the concept of percentages greater than 100%, right? So why do we have situation whereby we have percentages greater than 100%? You know, like for example, people would like to use percentages when there's an increase in something. You know, like for example, there's a business that does, they get a profit, and then the profit actually doubles. So when your profit doubles, it's actually 200% increase, right? So all these we will cover later on. Don't worry. I'm just trying to let you understand. All right. Then the other thing is, can you be able to understand the increasing and decreasing a quantity? Can you increase and decrease a quantity by a given percentage? You know, like for example, we know that GST is going to rise to 9%. So from 7% to 9%. So like for example, you always go to, your parents buy groceries. Normally you pay $100, right? So after GST, probably you pay $107. So GST is $7. So later on, when the government increases GST to 9%, how much more do you have to pay? Right? So from 7% to 9%, you have to pay $2 more. So these are the kind of topics that we're going to look at. Right? That's the concepts that we're going to look at. And then you have this concept of reverse percentages. Reverse percentages mean they give you the quantity after discount. Like for example, they tell you, oh, a certain watch that your parent bought on sale is $80, right? And your father actually enjoyed 10% discount. So what was the original price? So this reverse percentages, right? So this is like you have to work backwards. Okay, and then same thing in secondary level, you are supposed to solve problems based on real world context involving personal and household finance. Like for example, just now I mentioned simple and compound interest, taxation, installments, utility bills, and so on, right? So in the previous video, when I was introducing to you Singapore math, we know that the central focus of the Singapore math framework is problem solving, right? So these concepts are important. It's important for you to master the concept. So you need to understand, because when you understand concepts, you can reason. Okay, you can reason out better. That means you can use this concept to understand things better and apply them, right? So in today's webinar, it is a chance for you to go through all the concepts. Make sure you really understand the very important concepts. All right. Okay, let's take a look at the first problem sum. All right, so this is a problem sum that I want you all to think about. We are not going to do this problem sum now. I just want you all to take note of this problem sum, and we shall see how the concepts that I'm going to explain to you today you can use to apply, right? So this is a problem sum. Okay, so Mr. Aaron spent 75% of his salary and gave the rest to his wife and two children, Luke and Mary. Mary received 75% of what Luke received. Mrs. Aaron received twice as much as Luke. Mrs. Aaron then gave Mary $60 so that both Luke and Mary had the same amount of money. What was Mr. Aaron's salary? So we are going to go through this problem sum. I'm going to show you how to do this problem sum. This problem sum is considered high difficulty, significantly very difficult problem sum for primary school students. So what we're going to do here is, at the end of this whole presentation, I'm going to go through this using the methods that I have teach you, okay, that I've taught you before. That is using the GWS method with Dr. Zamski's checklist, all right, with the golden rules, the problem sum toolbox, right? So we're going to combine all of these and figure out, okay? So just think about this, all right? Okay, now the first concept, part of a whole as a percentage. Now here's the thing. You see, the whole point of a percentage, as I've shown you just now, Augustus, right? Augustus came out with a tax which is 1/100, right? That is his tax. So the meaning of percent means per 100, right? So per 100, so if you notice, part of a whole, is related to fraction, right? So like for example, okay, let's take a look at a whole. Okay, so a whole means one piece of a whole thing, right? And then we are looking at the parts. Okay, so let's say for example in this case, for the sake of understanding this much easily, I'll break this up into two, right? So there are two parts. So if you look at fraction, you know that this is half, okay, and this is half, right? If you know fraction, and then if you know decimal, you know that this is 0.5, okay, and this is 0.5. All right. Okay, now if it's percentage, what you need to do here is you need to break this whole into 100 parts, right? Into 100 parts. So now if you break this into 100 parts, okay, so if you look at half, all right, the equivalent fraction of half, and when you have the denominator of 100, the numerator is 50, right? So percentage only cares about the numerator when the denominator is always 100. So as I was mentioning to you just now, let's say this is the part that we want to look at. So the question here is, what is this part in relation to the whole? Right, so just now we saw it is actually 50 or 100. So 50 or 100, when you convert it into percentage, it means it is 50%, right? So this part whole approach is very important when you're dealing with percentage, right? So percentage talks about a certain part in relation to a whole. Okay, so let me just give you another simple example here. Okay. Okay, this time round, I'm gonna draw 4 parts. Alright, 4 parts. So let's say you have 4 parts, and then you want to find out the percentage of this, right? What is the percentage of this? Out of, okay, out of the whole. So this is the part, this is the whole. Okay, so this part is 1, right? 1 part, and the whole has 4 parts, right? So in fraction, you know that you can represent this part as 1/4 or 1/4. And like I mentioned to you, percentage is an equivalent fraction to whatever fraction you want to see, you want to use, whereby the denominator is 100, right? So how do you get 100? You multiply by 25, right? So you multiply by 25 here too. So here you get 25. So how do you convert this to percentage? Alright, so when you have something over 100, you just plug the value in the numerator, alright, to be the percentage. Okay, so after that is 25%. So put the percent symbol at the back. Right, so this part here is 25%. Alright, in relation to the whole. Right, remember that it's 25% in relation to the whole. When you're talking about percentage, it must always relate back to something else. You're always comparing it with something else. So percentage, you are comparing the part to the whole, right? To the whole. Okay, so this is something that you really need to know well, right? Like for example, I can make things harder for you. So let's say in this case, you're talking about, let's say you're talking about 8x, right? You're talking about 8x. You add 2x. Okay, you add 2x. Okay, so this is the part. Okay, this is the whole. Okay, so what percentage of the x did you eat? Right, very simple. Take 2, which is the part, over the whole, which is 8. Alright, you can actually simplify it, 1/4. Okay, so how do you change to percentage? Make sure the denominator, the equivalent fraction that you want to get, okay, the denominator is 100. So how do you get 100? You multiply by 25, and then you also do the same to your numerator. So you get 25. So when it comes to percentage or percent, it must be always something of 100. So in this case, it is 25%. Okay? So percentage is used to express a part of a whole, like in this manner. Alright, so tomorrow, when you download the worksheet, you will have more practice questions. For today, I just want you to take note, to absorb what is being taught about all these concepts. Alright, so the next one, the concept they're going to take a look is how do you convert a percentage into fraction, which is actually very easy, right? So let me just get my digital chalk. Okay. Alright, so percentage, you know, is something over 100, right? So let's say you have 30%. So 30%, you have to first convert it into fraction, right? So you must always know that percentage is always something over 100. So straight away plug the value here, put it in the numerator over denominator, which is always 100. Then after that, you simplify the fraction into the most simplified equivalent fraction. Alright, so you put 3 over 10. So that's how you convert percentage into a fraction. So I repeat again. The very first step you should do, okay, let me take another example from another percentage. Okay, 60% is, okay, just pluck out the value here when you have the symbol there. So it's 60 over 100. Make sure you put 100, okay? And then you reduce it, okay, to the most simplified fraction. And that's it, okay? So it's very easy to convert a percentage into a fraction. Alright, so yeah, like I mentioned, tomorrow you will have more practice. Okay, so if you are really weak in this, you can do more practice in that. Alright, so let's move on to the next part. Okay, now the next concept is how do you convert a percentage into a decimal. Alright, now let me just show you something here, right? Now, if you look at decimal from 0 to 1, for example, 0 to 1, right? Because it's a whole. Then after that, you have 0 0.1, 0 0.2, 0 0.3, 0 0.4, 0 0.5, 0 0.6, 0 0.7, 0 0.8, and 0 0.9 and 1. Okay, so alright, so let's say you have this line here. Okay, so this, when something is the one whole, it is 100% because you get the full of it, full marks, right? When you get full marks for your exam, it will be 100%. And then you have 0, it's 0%. Alright, now first things first, let's revise decimal, right? So decimal in this case, if you have 0 0.1, right? This is called the tens place, right? Which means in fraction, it is 1 over 10, right? So you want to convert this into equivalent fraction of denominator 100. So you times 10, you times 10, so you get 10, right? Okay, so 0 0.1 is 10%. Okay, so this is 10%. 0 0.2 is 20%. 0 0.3 is 30%. Alright, 0 0.4 is 40%. And so on, 90% and 100%, right? So this is the relationship of percentage to decimal. But now I'm going to show you how you convert percentage into decimal. So for example, you have 37, right? 37%. So first, convert into a fraction, very easy. Put something over 100, right? So 37 over 100. 37 over 100. Then next thing here is, right, you change it into decimal. So like for example, this is in the 100th place, right? So this is the 100th place because it's over 100, right? And this is 10th. Okay, so this is how you convert a percentage into a decimal. So if let's say I give you another percentage, like for example, okay, 0.5% is a very small number, right? So same thing, just put the number on top, okay, and it's always over 100, right? So in this case, if you want to convert this into decimal, if you notice, you have to shift the decimal place, right? So this is something from the topic of decimal. So you shift this here, the decimal here, so you get 1000, and then here you get 5. So it's 5 over 1000, right? So when you change this to decimal, it becomes 0.005, right? So this 5 is in the thousands place. Okay, so this is how you convert a percentage into decimal. Alright, the next concept here is to convert a fraction into percentage. Right, so to convert a fraction into percentage, there are actually two ways. Okay, there are two ways. Let me just show you both of them. Alright, so the first way, okay, there are actually two methods. Let me just cut this into two. So the first method is, okay, convert everything into an equivalent fraction of something over 100. Right, that's the first method. First method. Okay, the second method, okay, is to take the fraction, whatever fraction it is, multiply by 100%, right? And then you get the percent. Okay, so for this one, when you get the equivalent fraction of the denominator of 100, you just pluck out the value and then you become percentage. So let me show you an example. Let's say, okay, the fraction in this case is 3 over 5, right? So if you use the first method, you have to convert it into something over 100. So how do you get 100 from 5? You take 5 times 20, so you do the same to the numerator, so it becomes 60. Right? Then after that, you plug this value, then it becomes 60%. Right? So from fraction to percentage. Now, let's use the same fraction, but for the second method. You just take 3 over 5, multiply by 100%. Right? Okay, now, for those who have done fractions, you know you can cancel out the numbers. Right? So in this case, I can cancel 5. 100 I divide by 5, I will have 20. So 20 times 3 is 60%. Right? So this is how you do it. Now, there is a third method, right? And the third method is, of course, using a calculator. Okay, which is actually quite similar to the second method. So the third method is using the calculator. Okay, let me just show you the calculator. Okay, so I'm using a standard calculator. Okay, just give me a second. Let me just put it on full screen. Okay, so this is a calculator, right? Okay, so just now the question here is 3, 5. So we just put in 3 over 5, like that. Can you see? 3 over 5. Okay, 3 over 5. And then I just multiply by 100, right? 100. So what's the answer? 60. So 3 over 5 times 100 is 60, right? So it's 60%. Okay, so that's why like I mentioned, the third method is the same as the second method, because the third method is just using the calculator, but there's no percentage. You don't use the percentage symbol on your calculator. You just put in the 100. All right, so that's how you use the calculator to find how to convert the fraction into percentage. All right, so good. Let's move on to the next concept. All right, so make yourself comfortable, grab yourself a drink. We are here to learn. So when you learn at Dr. Zam's Math, it's very important for you to take brain breaks. So like for example, just now I started at about 4 o'clock, right? So we're gonna just take a short break, 1 minute brain break, right? Because this is live. So when it's live, you really have to take a brain break for 1 minute. So normally during the brain break, you can talk to your friend, or don't play game for too long, right? Don't run around. Brain break means just rest your brain, right? And probably take a small little sweet, right? So what I'm gonna do here is I'm gonna drink something, right? All right. Now, brain-based learning for math is basically using your brain, optimizing the way you learn by making sure your brain is optimum for learning, right? So it's very important to take breaks. Okay, so now we are at 3:40. So 40 minutes has passed, but it's okay. Like I mentioned, I actually started 10 minutes later because I wanted more people to gather. But if this is a recorded video, just feel free to rewind or forward it. All right. So the next concept here is, how do you convert a decimal? How do you convert a decimal, right? Okay, to convert a decimal is actually quite easy. Okay, to convert a decimal to a percentage, right? So everybody knows what's a decimal, right? So like for example, you have a particular decimal, 0.4, for example. All right. So the first step is convert it into fraction, okay? Because percentage is related to fraction, remember? Right? So just ask yourself, 0.4 is what out of 100? All right, but for those who are still not that strong in your fractions and decimal, let me show you the longer cut. 0.4, is 4 over 10, right? Because 4 is in the tens place, right? So 4 over 10 is in tens place. Then, like I mentioned, when you want to change into percentage, it has to always be something over 100, right? So the denominator has to be 100. So how do you get 100? I multiply by 10. So the top, I will also multiply by 10. So I get 40. So 0.4 is 40%. Easy, right? Good. Now, let me give you a little bit more challenge. Okay, now I'm going to use, let's say, 2 digits in the decimal, right? So again, convert into fraction. So this is in the tenth, this is in the thousands. So hundreds. So 16 over 100, right? Easy, 16%. Okay, or I'll make it even harder by just giving you 1 digit, but that digit is in the hundreds place. So 7 here is in the hundredth place, right? So convert it into fraction. So your decimal needs to be really, really strong, right? So convert it into fraction, which is 7 over 100. So very easy, right? It's already over 100. So just convert into percentage. Simple, right? Okay, so let's make it even harder, right? I'm gonna make it even harder. I'm gonna introduce the thousands place. So let's say it is 0.742, right? How do you convert it? Simple, right? Convert it into fraction first, okay, which is 1000, right? But the denominator, I must make it become 100. So to make it become 100, I divided this by 10. So I have to do the same to the top by 10. Right? So the top now, instead of a whole number, it becomes a decimal number. 74.2, right? So what is the percentage? 74.2%. Okay, so it's very easy, right? When you want to convert decimal to percentage, always change it into fraction first, and then you can play around with the denominator. Make sure the denominator is always 100, and then you just plug the value. Alright, well done. Now let's move on to the next concept. Okay, let me just go to the next one. Now, how do you find a percentage part of a whole, right? So, like for example, okay, let me just get my pen. Okay, somebody asked you, what is 20% of 500 grams of sugar, right? So this is a whole. This is a whole. This is the percentage part, right? The part expressed in percentage. So it's called the percentage part, right? So what is this part? Okay, what is this part? So it's actually very simple. Remember the word of. Of in math most of the time means multiply. So to find what is 20% of 500, all I need to do, just take 20%, okay, multiply by 500, right? So you don't have to put the unit now. Okay, multiply by 500. Right, how do you multiply this? Right, so you convert 20% either into decimal or into fraction. Okay, so for this part, I will just convert it into decimal first, multiply by 500, right, which is 100. Right, so the percentage part of a whole. So when you have a 20% of 500 gram, that means it's 100 grams, right? So this is using decimal. Alright, I can also use fraction, right? Okay, now for paper 2, you know you can use a calculator, right? Okay, so there is actually a sign here. Let me just go back to full screen of the webcam so that you can see. Okay, hello. Okay, now this calculator, depending on your model, right? So if you look at the calculator here, you see this sign here? Here? You see this one? That is the percentage, right? You can use that percentage, but you have to press the shift button, right? So in this case, if I take 20, right? See, I can put the percentage sign there, alright? Then I multiply by 500. There you go. 20% times 500 equal to 100. Alright, so if your calculator is the same model as this, that's how you do it. You can just type in the equation or type in whatever working you want and then just multiply it. That's the answer. Alright, so that's how you use a calculator. Alright, so it's actually quite simple, not that difficult. So let's go back to the digital blackboard. Okay, so what percentage part of a whole? So it's actually quite simple. So yeah, we will probably have more practice tomorrow. Okay, from the worksheet. Let's move on. Right, now let's talk a little bit about discount, GST, and annual interest, right? So discount, Okay, let's say, let me just show you the brochure that we had just now, right? So like for example this, right? 50% off. Okay, 50% off. So according to them, the original price here is $70 per month. Okay, this is the original price. Alright, and then they are giving you 50% discount. 50% discount means, right, if we can represent this 70 into a whole, right, 70 into a whole, so this whole thing is $70. Alright, and then when they say they discount 50% means, okay, so 50% you can convert into fraction. So, you know, for those who are not that strong in percentages, I will do it slowly with you. So 50 over 100 simplified to 1 over 2. So take the model, cut it into 2. Right? So 50% means you reduce 50% of the original part. Right? So you're left with only this part. So how much do you pay at the end of it? Can you guess? Is the other 50%. Right? So how do you calculate this part? Okay, what is the discounted price after that? It's actually very simple. Again, this is to find a percentage part of a whole, right? So the method is very simple. 50% times the whole. So $70. Okay, you can use your calculator, you can do a few things, you can convert into fraction, then in the end you will get the answer, which is 35. Alright, so you can use decimal, you can take 70 multiplied by 0.5 or by half, or you can use your calculator and just type this out and you'll get 35. And this for only paper 2, right? If you want to use a calculator. Okay, so that's discount. Right, the understanding of discount means you get a reduction. Alright, now what is GST? GST stands for Goods and Services Tax. So just like Augustus, right, some governments or some countries like Singapore, they actually charge the GST. So GST is Goods and Services Tax, right? So currently we are paying 7%. Alright, so let's say you buy something which is originally $100, right? So after buying this, you need to pay the government 7%, right? So $100, 7% is $7. So the item might be worth $100 or priced at $100, but because of the GST, your total that you have to pay, okay, will be $107, right? So GST is this component here, right? Of course, there are other shortcuts, you know, like for example, if somebody asks, so how much do I have to pay in total, right? So this is the original price, this is the tax. So sometimes you don't have to multiply by 7 and then add to the original amount. You can straight away multiply by 107%. Alright, because it's the same thing, right? This involves 2 steps, but this one you involve 1 step. Okay, because essentially here you are taking 100%, which is the original price, and you add up to the 7%, so you have 107%. Alright, which will still give you the same answer, which is $107. Alright, do take note, when you multiply by 107%, it is not $100 times 107. It is not. It is 107%, which means it's 107 over 100. Alright, so do take note of that. Don't make that mistake. Okay, now annual interest. So let me just go through these brochures that I've gotten, right? So for example, this bank pays you 16% annual interest if you give them your money, if you put your money as a fixed deposit. Okay, fixed deposit means you cannot take it out, right? So let's imagine you put 100, okay, $100. So let's say you put a fixed deposit of $100. Let me just clear the whiteboard. Okay, good. So the whiteboard has been cleared magically. without dust. Okay, now, so just now we were saying for this situation, okay, let's say you deposited $100 in the bank and the bank wants to offer you 16% interest. So what is your interest, right? Just multiply, right? Because you're trying to find the percentage part, right, of your whole. So you just multiply, right? So once you multiply, it depends on how you want to do it. You can take fraction, okay, convert it into fraction. You can or convert it into decimal, or just use your calculator, right? Calculator. Okay, and it will give you the same answer. What's the answer? $16. Okay, it still gives you 16. Alright, so for this bank, annual interest means if you save the money with them, let's say you did not withdraw the money, $100, you save with them for 1 year, okay, throughout they will give you 16%. So at the end of 1 year, they will give you $16 and you still get your $100. So at the end of it, okay, your bank account, if you don't remove anything, is $116 because your interest is $16. And if let's say you continue on with them, okay, then they give you another 16%, right, and so on. Okay, so that's all you need to know. For those who are in secondary school, right, there is this concept which is greater than annual interest. Annual interest is just for the primary school students. So later on, as secondary school students, you will learn this thing called compound interest. Alright, so it's actually very easy. Okay, now how do you find the whole? How do you find the whole? Okay, if you are given the part and the percentage, right? So like for example, okay, let's just use a model so you can understand. Okay, let's say you have a model like that, and then somebody says this part here is 15%. Okay, it's 15%. So if this part here is 15%, right, you know total one whole is 100%. Okay, total one whole is 100%. So this part here must be 85%, right? So let's say they give you a part which is 15%, and then they tell you here is $30, right? They say that 15% is $30. So now they ask you, so what is the whole amount, right? So it's actually very simple. You just need to equate it, okay, or make it the same. So 15%, do not use equal sign because they are different units, okay? So use arrow, is equals to $30, right? And then you find 1%, right? So all you have to do is take $30 divide by 15. So 1% is $2, right? So 100% will then be $2 times 100, okay, which is $200. Alright, so this is how you find the whole. It's actually very easy. So you always change it to 1%, and then you can get the final, which is 100%, because the whole in this case is 100%. Right, so you can actually turn this into some sort of a unit, 1% unit. Right, there are many ways to do it. You know, I have some students who will do it this way. Right, so 15% is $30. So straight away they just do it as 5%. So 5% you just divide by 3. So 5% is $10. Then they just put 100% because there are, you just need to times 20 to get 100. So it's still 200. So some students do it this way, some students do it this way, but for me, I feel you will make lesser careless mistake if you do this method, because you will always tell yourself, I need to find 1%, I need to find 1%, then multiply by 100. Alright? Okay, let's move on. Alright, now, this is a very common question for PSLE. Okay, what is the percentage increase or decrease? Okay, actually it's very easy. The formula is actually very easy. To find the percentage, okay, of increase or decrease, okay, increase or decrease means change. To find the change, all I have to do is take the change, okay, calculate the change divided by the original value, and then multiply by 100%, because one whole is 100%, right? Then I will get this, okay, which is increase or decrease. So let me give you an example, right? Let's say, okay, currently you have $100 per month from your parents, right? But because you did such a great job, your parents increased it, okay, increased to $120. Okay, so now the question here is, what is your percentage increase, right? So first find the change. So in this case is an increase, right? Increase. So make sure you take the bigger number, 120, okay, because it is a positive change, right? Minus 100. Okay, divide by the original number, okay, original value, which is 100. Okay, so it is 20, and remember you must multiply by 100%. So 20 over 100 times 100%, right? So so the answer is simple. How many percent? Okay, the change or the increase in your allowance is 20%. Alright, now let's see if it's the same. Okay, let's say now the following month your parent decide to reduce it to $90. Why? Probably you didn't do that well, right, in the following month. So again, okay, let's take a look at this 90. So again, what is the change? This time around is a decrease, right? So decrease, just find the change first, right? So the change is, okay, this is the change now. This is the original amount now. You're trying to find the change from 120 to 90, not 100 anymore, right? Not this anymore. So again, all right, find the change. You take 120 minus 90, because that's the change, or that's the decrease. Okay, that's the decrease. And then the original that you're trying to compare with. So 120. Remember, don't take 100. Okay, take the original that you're trying to compare with, because like I mentioned to you, percentage is about comparison. Then multiply by 100%. Okay, so it is 30 over 120 times 100%, right? So cancel here, in the end you have 1 over 4. So 1 over 4 times 100% is 25%, right? So the percentage decrease after you didn't do that well. You know, your parents decided to give you $90 from giving you 120 is 25%. There's a 25% decrease, right? So just take note, for this question or this kind of concept, what is important is your understanding of change, your understanding of the original value. What is the value that you are trying to compare with, right? So many students, they're actually very confused. Like for example, in this example, I use the number 100 at first. Then later what happened is that 100 increased to 120, then increased to 90, right? So you must compare to the original value of your comparison. Okay, good. Now let's move on to the next question, rather the next concept. Alright, now this is actually the last requirement of primary level percentage, and that is for you to solve word problems. Okay, so you need to solve word problems, and percentage will definitely come out in your PSLE, so it's worth learning percentage. Now let's revisit this problem sum that I introduced to you at the beginning of the presentation, right? So Mr. Aaron spent 75%. So we already learned all the concepts. So let me just go through with you. Okay, I'm gonna change this. All right. So before that, just take note. Okay. I just want you to incorporate what you have learned. Okay. Okay, so Mr. Aaron. Okay, so sorry about that. Okay, so Mr. Aaron spent 75% of his salary. Okay, so he spent 75% of his salary and gave the rest. Alright, so you know, if 75% he spent, so the rest must be 25%. Right? So the rest is 25%. So 25% of what? His salary. So don't be confused. To his wife and 2 children. So his wife and 2 children got the rest. Right? So, and his children, Luke and Mary. So Mary received 75% of what Luke received. Right? So Mary received 75% of what Luke received. So if you are saying that Luke is now the 100%, right? If you draw a model, let's say Luke is 100%, you're saying that Mary receives 75% of Luke's 100%. Right? So the whole changes. Here, the whole is the salary, right? Mr. Aaron's salary. But when you have this other percentage, the whole now is in comparison to Luke whole, which is 100%. Right? So don't be confused by that. Now, Mrs. Aaron, okay, now this is the third person, the wife, received twice as much as Luke. Alright, so this is a simple multiplication. So that means she has 200% of what is in being compared to Luke. Right? So what happened next? Mrs. Aaron then gave Mary $60 so that both Luke and Mary had the same amount of money. So if you notice, from 75% to become 100, that means this is 25% of the whole. Okay, the whole that you're referring to is Luke's whole. So 25% is $60. Right? So right away you can know already. So if 25% is $60, right, you are given the part percentage and this. Can you find the whole? So how much did Luke have? It's very easy, right? So from here alone you know how to calculate. Right? So it's actually just $60 times 4. Okay, for those who are asking why, you will find out later on. Right? So 100% is 240 for Luke. Alright, since mom has 200%, that means it is $480 for mom. Right? Now, Mary has 75% of what Luke has. Right? So you have to take 3/4 of 240. Okay? So it's actually $180. So you add all this up, it forms 25%. Okay? Because the solution that they want here is Mr. Aaron's salary. Okay? So you're actually working backwards. So you're trying to form the parts of the parts of the parts. So you see? So first, the whole here is Mr. Aaron's salary, okay, which is the original whole. Then you are focused on the whole that is from the rest which he gave to his children. And then you make use of Luke's whole as reference to everything else, right? Correct? So this is how you distribute, right? So Luke is 100%, Mary 75%. So this part here, which is 25%, is $60, right? So you work backwards. So once you have the rest, the amount here, the rest, which is 25%, then you can calculate the whole. Alright, so this one is for you to work backwards and for you to do a few steps. Okay, so this is one of the harder questions because it requires you to really think carefully, figure out the problem strategies, okay, problem sum strategies that you want to do. Okay, now this is actually the end of the segment for primary school students. So if you are a primary school student or you are a parent who only have primary school going students or children, you can actually not continue with this video. Probably you can spend the time trying to solve the problem sum that was given just now. All right. For the rest who are in secondary school, or if you're interested to learn further, you can continue on, because from here onwards are all the concepts in secondary school. All right, now let's just stretch ourselves a little bit. All right, it has been about more than 1 hour, so it's very good for you to have a brain break every 20 minutes, right? Move yourself a little bit so that your brain can work more effectively. Okay, now the next concept is to express one quantity as a percentage of another, right? So one quantity as a percentage of another. Now, let me just give you an example here. Let's say, okay, you're talking about 300 grams of sugar, and then you have 1.2 kg of flour. Okay, so what is the percentage of the mass of sugar is to the 1.2 kg of flour? So you're trying to find the percentage. Again, when you're trying to find the percentage, okay, you're trying to express one quantity over another, first things first, the unit, you must make it the same. So in this case, it is 300 grams, okay, over the other quantity that you want to compare with. So just convert 1.2 kg into grams, right? So all the units must be the same. All right, multiply by 100%. Okay, so essentially what you're trying to do here is you're trying to compare, right? So for example, flour, this is flour, right? And then this is sugar. So you're trying to compare sugar is what part here of flour, right? So you just take the first quantity divided by the other quantity that you want to compare with, and then multiply by 100. So in this case, it's actually quite straightforward. When you simplify, it becomes 1/4 times 100%. So the answer is 25%, right? So this is a very simple concept, but students still don't quite understand because they don't understand the question, the language. So tomorrow, you please download the worksheet at 1 p.m. If you are watching this recorded, then you can download it now. Just make sure you go to all the different sources to download the worksheet, right? For you to practice. And then make use of the video Thursday test event for you to go through the answers. Alright? Okay, now. Alright, now comparing two quantities. Okay, so now we want to compare two quantities by percentage. Alright, so just now I brought up the issue of your neighbor. So let's say you have your neighbor, okay, her name is Sally, and then this is you, okay, this is you. Alright, so Sally goes to a different school from you, not the same school, but she has a she has a test, right, on percentages. You also have a test on percentages, a class test. It just so happens it's on the same day. So Sally came back home and you met her. You asked her, what did you get for your test? She said 49. And then she asked you, what did you get for your test? You said 45. And then you felt very bad. Okay, you felt very bad because you scored lower than her. Alright, so is that how you compare your results, right? So there's a reason why sometimes it's good to convert everything to percentage, because it will give you a good comparison. So like in this case, you found out that Sally's marks is actually out of 100, right? She had a very big paper. For your case, you actually did extremely well. It's out of 50, right? So it's always good to convert it into percentage, right? So how do you convert into percentage? It's actually very simple. Take the convert the quantity that you want, okay, over the fraction. So in this case, it's 45 over 50. Okay, multiply by 100% because you want to convert it into percentage, right? So multiply by 100% because 1 whole is 100%. Okay, so how many percent did Sally get? Sally actually scored 49%, and you scored 90%. You see, so when you look at quantities in comparison, you actually scored 90% and Sally scored only 49. So you actually did better. Even though in terms of marks, you only scored 45 and Sally scored 49, right? But in terms of percentage, you scored much higher. Right? So that's how you compare two quantities by percentage. Alright, now, how about this understanding of percentages greater than 100%? Alright, if you understand the whole and part concept, right? Now, let's say this is one whole. You know one whole is always 100%, right? It's always 100%. So when you have a percentage that is greater than 100%, it means that the number is bigger than one part, okay, or one whole. So like for example, let's say you want to say 150%. Okay, so 150% basically means, okay, 100, and then you have another component which is 50% of the whole here. So this whole thing is 150%, right? So this is 150% of this. Okay, so like for example, let's say your father runs a business. This year, your father made $100 million. Okay. Next year, your father made 100, or rather, let me just put it as your father made, let's say, $300 million. Alright. So, if you look at this, of course, you know that this is simply multiplied by 3. Right? But do you remember that when you're looking at situation like this, okay, let's say we're trying to find the percentage of increase. All I have to do is take the change, which is 300. Okay, I'm just going to remove the million so that it's easier for us to calculate first. 300 over 100, 300 minus 100 over the original number, which is 100, multiplied by 100%. Right? So I get 200 over 100 times 100%. Okay, so in the end, the percentage of increase is actually 200%. Right, the percentage of increase. So that means from 100 million, your father increased its profits by 200%. Right, even though in terms of multiplication is 3 times. Okay, your profit has become 3 times as what it originally is, but the profits or the change is actually 200%. Right, so this is the concept of percentages greater than 100%. So if you were to convert it into decimal, the same thing. Let's say you want to convert 150% into fraction. So it's just 150 over 100. So it becomes an improper fraction. So in this case, it becomes 15 over 10. It becomes 3 over 2. Right, improper fraction, or you can change to a mixed number. So this is how you convert percentages greater than 100% into fractions, 1.5. Same thing with decimal, right? So if you have 150 over 100, okay, which you know is 1.5. So since this is a whole number, means it is 1 point. So half is 5 over 10, right? So it's 1.5. Okay, so when you're dealing with percentages that are greater than 100, your understanding must be clear, right? What it means. At the end of the day, you must always remember what is the whole, what is the 100%. So when your percentage is bigger than 100%, you just need to make sure that it is in comparison to the whole. Okay, so now let's move on to the next concept. Now, how do you increase or decrease a quantity by a given percentage? Like for example, okay, let's say, okay, let me just, okay, so sorry about that. Okay, let me see. Let's check. Okay, so how do you increase or decrease a quantity by a given percentage? Alright, so let me just check what is okay, pointer pen. Okay, good. Okay. Okay, now let's say for example, right, your mother is 50 kg. She wants to lose her weight by 10%, right? She wants to lose her weight by 10%. So what is the weight that she has to lose, right, in terms of kg? So you need to find that 10% of 50 kg, which is actually very easy, right? So it's just 50 times 10%, okay, which is just 5 basically. So your mother wants to lose 5 kg. Alright, so it's actually very simple. It's just to just to make sure you know what is the quantity, right, that you want to increase or decrease. So let's say your father, okay, his pay right now is $3,000 per month. Alright, and the boss promises him that he will get a 20% pay increment. Okay, so how much money is he going to get next month so that he can bring you for holidays? So first you can calculate the increase, right? So 3,000 multiplied by 20% to find out the increase, right? Which is 3,000. Okay, you can convert it to fraction, use calculator, all the different methods that I've gone through. 0.2 is $600 increase, right? So your father now has an extra $600 once his pay is increased, right? So the amount increase is $600. So what is his new pay? Very simple, 3,000 plus 600, which is $3,600. Simple, right? Of course, there's a shortcut, right? So if let's say you're trying to find what is his new pay, you know his new pay is 100%, which is original pay, plus the increment 20%. So you need to find what is 120%, right? So the shortcut is just take 3,000 multiply by 120%, right? Which is take 3,000 multiply by 1.2, which is the same, okay, $3,600. All right, so it's as simple as that. Okay, now what is reverse percentage? Okay, reverse percentage is when they give you the percentage of something and then you're supposed to work backwards. Like for example, right, they say that let's say your grandfather bought glasses, okay, at $75. Okay, so your grandfather bought the glasses for $75, and then your grandfather told you that this was after a discount of 20%, right? A discount of 20%. So $75 is already the discounted price, right? So how do you work backwards? Very simple. First, you establish what is $75. $75 is after discount, which is 20%. So $75 here is 80%, right? So remember, you just need to equate it to the correct percentage, right? And then after that, find 1%, which is 75 over 80, and then just find what is the original price, right? So in this case, this is in dollars, right? So to find the original price, you multiply back to 100%, then you will get the final answer. So reverse percentages is very important for you to be very clear about the whole. Okay, what is the whole? What is the part, okay, that you're looking at? Okay, because the part here could be after a discount, right? So when you have a discount, it's actually being deducted. Or if let's say you have a whole and then there's an increase, okay, there's an increase. So you need to ask yourself, what is this increase? in relation to the whole, right? So when you do percentages, the concept of part and whole is very important. Okay, you must always ask yourself, what is the whole you're looking at and what is the part you're looking at. Okay, because sometimes when you talk, like for example the problem sum that we are talking about the salary of Mr. Aaron, right? And then once he gave away this amount to the three individuals, that three individuals now get a whole new amount, right? Which becomes a new whole. So the part and whole, you must understand clearly which part and whole you are referring to, right? Everything else will be very easy. So just take note of that. Okay, now we are almost at the end of this whole presentation. Alright, so the same thing for secondary school. Secondary math is the same thing. You have to solve problems, right? So for secondary math, you need to solve problem based on real world context involving personal and household finances. So like for example, just now, we actually in primary school, they actually did simple interest, okay? And then after that, we have compound interest for secondary school, and then taxation, installments, utility bills, and so on, right? So for simple interest, there's actually a very simple formula, all right, which is interest, okay, which is equals to the principal means the amount that you start off with, the interest rate, and the number of years, right? So that's the simple interest. Okay, so this is to find the interest. To find what amount you have at the end, you just take interest plus the principal. So this is simple interest. Now, compound interest is very interesting. Okay, if let's say you're trying to find the compound interest, all right, you need to do this. You need to take the principal, and then you need to take the rate, and then you need to multiply by 1. Okay, you need to multiply by the t to the power of n, right? Yt to the power of n, and this t here is the period, okay, the time period where the interest is being compounded. So like for example, if let's say the interest is being compounded every 6 months, right? So in 1 year, it will be compounded twice, right? Compounded twice. So that means this n here, right, must be 2 times, all right, of the r. So this r is very important, how many times you have to multiply it by. All right, so this we will cover a little bit more. Okay, I'm gonna show you more right now. Okay, okay, so compound interest is very interesting. All right, so let me just explain to you about compound interest. Compound interest means basically you have a certain amount of money. Let's say your parents put in $1,000, all right, and the bank promises to pay him interest every 6 months, for example. Okay, every 6 months, all right, every 6 months they are going to pay your father 5%. So by the time it's the first 6 months, your father is going to get 5% of $1,000, right? Okay, which is $50. And then by the time it's the next 6 months, your father would have already gotten $1,050 in the account. So this is the new principal. So this will then be multiplied by 5% again, right? So this is what they mean by compounded interest. Your interest, okay, becomes your principal, and then it gets compounded again and again and again, depending on the period in which you get to enjoy your interest. So let me just go back and show you this. Okay, let me just show you full screen. Okay. Okay, let me just show you the full screen, right? Okay, so this bank, for example, gives you fixed deposits. Okay, the interest is every 3 months, 6 months, and 12 months. So every 3, 6, and 12 months, you get 16% interest, right? And then if you look down here, if you keep it for 3 months, you know, highest interest with maximum security. Okay, so the percentages are different for how long you keep it. So if you keep it for 3 months, you know, they will give you 16.99%. If you keep it for every 6 months, they give you 16.64. If you keep it for 12 months, they give you 16%. Right? So this is what is being meant just now. Okay? So let's go back. Okay, so I've shown you the utility bills. Okay, so basically that's the end of everything that you need to know about percentages. So the thing about math here is it's always good to know first and understand clearly so that you can reason out and come up with problem solving strategies. So tomorrow we are going to do the worksheet. Okay, I'm going to go through with you on Thursday Test Me event, which is tomorrow. It's going to be live on YouTube and also Facebook. Alright, so let's revisit the problem sum again. Okay, let me just touch on one thing before we go. Okay, let me just touch on one thing before we go. Alright. Okay, now, for example, okay, if you say A is 20% more than B. Okay, let's say you say Ali has 20% more, okay, has 20% more than B. Does it mean B or Bob, okay, does it mean Bob has 20% lesser than Ali? Is it true? Okay, come, let's take a look. Let's say Ali, okay, so in this case 20% more than Bob. So that means Bob here is your whole because you're comparing it to Bob, right? So this is Bob. So Bob has 100%. Alright, so Ali, okay, so this is extra 20%. So Ali has 120%. Right, so this belongs to Ali. Okay, so is it true to say that Bob has 20% lesser than Ali? Is it true? Okay, the answer is it's not true because you are asking yourself 20% of what whole? Because what you're comparing yourself here is this 20% of this whole, right? This whole is actually 120%. So if you look at this, it's actually 20% of 120%, which is not 20%. 20% of 120%, okay, if you look at it, it is 1/6, right? So 1/6 is not 20%. Right? So don't have this misconception. Just because you think Ali has 20% more than Bob doesn't mean Bob has 20% lesser than Ali. Because like I mentioned to you, the part and the whole is very important. Okay, part and whole. So in the first statement here, the whole is Bob. Okay, Bob here is the whole. This is 100%. So when you say Ali has 20% more, that means Ali has 120%. But when you say Bob has 20% lesser than Ali, you are saying Ali now, this 120% is the new whole. So if you say Bob has 20% lesser, then you need to find what is 20% of 120%, which is 24% actually. Right, so this part here is actually 24%. Okay, because the whole is actually Ali. So do take note of that misconception. Okay, now before we end this session, alright, let me just go through this again. So make sure when you do this problem sum, okay, this Mr. Aaron's problem sum, make sure you have the Dr. Zam's case checklist, you follow the golden rules, and make sure you have the math problem sums. So what's going to happen here is I'm just going to show you the answer, because for those who are primary school students, okay, you have joined us. I hope you have tried to work out the question. So let's try to do this. Okay, we will go through the working tomorrow, right, for the test me. Okay, so very simple. So let's follow the golden rules. Read carefully, understand clearly, look out for the givens, look out for the solution, annotate, visualize, and draw. Very simple, right? Then you follow Dr. Zamki's checklist. So let's read. So Mr. Aaron spent 75% of his salary, right? He spent 75% of his salary and gave the rest. So gave the rest means the 25% of his salary to who? To the wife and 2 children, right? So Luke and Mary. So now Mary received 75% of what Luke received. So in this case, you are comparing to Luke. So in this case, Luke is 100%, right? So always must write that. So when you're comparing to a new whole, that is the whole 100%. So Mary received 75% of what Luke received, right? And then the other thing is Mrs. Aaron. Okay, Mrs. means the wife, received twice as much as Luke. So if Luke is 100%, that means the wife is 200% as compared to Luke. Alright? And then what happened here? Mrs. Aaron gave Mary $60 so that both Luke and Mary had the same amount of money. So Mary had 75, Luke had 100. So she needed to give $60 to Mary so that from 25 she can become 100% equal, right? So that means $60 here is 25% of Luke, right? So you must take note, this is Luke. Okay? So Luke is 100% in this case. And then when you're talking about this 25%, you're referring to Luke's 100%. Okay, so don't be confused by this percent and this percent, because this percent is for a different whole. Okay, it is for the salary whole, whereas for these other statements, it is referring to Luke, right? So the salary, of course, is a very big whole. Okay, so you have Luke, which is 100%, and then you have Mary, which is 75%. And then you have the wife, which is 2 times of this, right? Okay, so that means down here, okay, to fill up this gap, which is 25%, okay, so equate it, 25% is $60. So how much did Luke have? Luke will have 100%, which means it is $240. So Luke has 240. Alright. Mary will have, okay, Mary will have just minus the 60. So Mary will have 180. Mother will have twice of Luke, which is 480, right? So this whole amount here, okay, this whole amount here is actually a part of another whole, which is the father's salary, right? So this is something that you all need to take note of. Okay, so I'm just gonna draw here. So just now the salary. Okay, good. So that is something for you to think about, okay? Okay, so just now we have the whole, the big whole, which is the father's salary. Okay, and a small component of it, 25%, is then subdivided into Luke, okay, which just now we calculated is 240. Alright, and then Mary, which is 180. And then wife, which is 2 times of Luke, which is 480. And all this, okay, is 25%. So the question asks you for the whole of the salary of Aaron, right? So all you need to do is just add this up, okay, and this is 25%. Okay, so if you add it up, okay, 240, 180 will be 420, so $900 is 25%. Okay, so you need to find 100%, so you can just multiply by 4. Alright, so 900 times 4. Okay, because I'm making it into 100%. So the answer here is $3,600. Okay, so for those who are not that strong in percentage, just take note, there's an extra step that you can do, which is to find 1% first. Okay, then after that you multiply by 100, doesn't matter. Okay, so actually percentage, if you notice, is actually very simple, but you just need to take note of the most important thing about percentage, honestly, is to know that you are not confused over the part, okay, and the whole, which is the part and which is the whole. So that is why I ask this problem sum. Okay, I pose this problem sum to you because I want you to understand that when you're referring to the different wholes, like for example here, Luke in this case was the whole, okay, was the 100% in relation to all these other individuals. But then this total amount, which is 25%, it is actually the part of the bigger whole, which refers to the salary. Okay, so this problem sum is very important because it makes you have a very clear mind about what is the whole and the parts that you're referring to. Okay, so for the, okay, let me just go to the last slide. Okay, so make sure you download the worksheet at 1 p.m. tomorrow. Okay, for the Thursday Test Me event, it's gonna be at 3 p.m. Alright, we're gonna go through some of the questions. So today is more about understanding. So as soon as I'm done with the live video, if you've forgotten some of the concepts, as you go through your worksheet, you can go through the concepts given. So make sure you go to drzam.com. Subscribe to the Dr. Zam's Math newsletter. You can go to the channel, Dr. Zam Math channel, which is youtube.drzam.com. Subscribe to the videos there, to the channel. Go to Facebook page. You can share, you can like, you can follow. We are also on Instagram, tweet, and there's also a blog. Right? So we have all the resources and technology to help you do really well for Dr. Zam's Math. So if you have any questions, please ask me. So thank you very much for joining me in this event, which is almost 2 hours, right? It's almost 2 hours, but you must remember this. What I have just covered is basically everything that you need to know about percentage in primary school all the way to secondary school. So give yourself a round of applause. We basically just finished the whole thing about percentage that you ever need to know in primary school and secondary school. So well done. Alright, so if you have any questions, just leave them behind, and I'm gonna take your questions and answer them. Alright, so thank you very much for joining me. I hope to see you again tomorrow. Do take note, we have lots more of webinars, we have lots more of programs. We hope that we can really help you score and improve in your math. Alright, so thanks a lot. So if there are any questions, just let me know. Alright, if there's nothing else, I would like to say thank you very much.